Today is a day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This season, brothers and sisters, this month of Adar is a time that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice, shout for joy, and be glad in it. What a privilege it is for me to stand before you today and present a story of faith that triggered a victory with subsequent glory over even death. A story where the impossible has become possible, where we see resurrection of the dead, the breaking of shackles, freedom for the captives. Brothers and sisters, this story is about you. It's about me. And it's about a need for resurrection. So to fully understand this story and the parallel we're going to make with it, let us first go to John chapter 11, starting with verse 21, where we will see this is a story that we're all familiar with, that we all have heard, when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. But there is something that sometime we may have overlooked. Let's start with the reading, verse 21. It says, "Lord," said Martha to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died." You see, Martha acknowledging in the presence of Jesus, if Jesus was here, if the Lord was here, his brother would not have died. Maybe you have lost something and you're thinking back to yourself, maybe it's because of your separation of God for that time being to why you lost that thing. Guess what? It's not the end. But if we will go back to verse 22, we see, "But I know," see, still again, Martha talking to Jesus, "But I know that even now," you see, that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. You see, Martha know who Jesus is. He know that Jesus can do the impossible for her. And I'm sure as you read this previously, you understand that very well. That Martha acknowledging that Jesus can do the impossible for her. But did she really? Let's see as the story progresses. Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." You see, she first of all said, "If you were here, my brother would not have died." But I know, now I know, whatever you ask God, it will be done. Whatever you ask. And Jesus plainly tell her, "Your brother will rise again." But now listen to her story. Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." How many of you is Martha today, thinking that your problem can only be solved when you get to heaven, at the very end? Fail to realize her faith again, that triggered the first word. Remember, she said, "If you were here, I would not have lost my brother. And now I know whatever you ask will be done." But when Jesus gave her the answer she's looking for, all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I know it's towards the end when it doesn't matter anymore. How many of you is Martha today? That's the parallel we need to start seeing. How many of you, when we pray to God and ask God for a miracle, and when God provides the answer, and you retreat? Oh, yeah, I know it's going to happen, but when it doesn't matter anymore. Jesus said to her, woman, I am the resurrection and the life, and I'm here. So which means it can happen right now, right? Verse 25 we see, Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Now watch this. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. So if you believe in Jesus, whatever you lost, whether it's your possession, whether it's a job, whether it's an opportunity, whatever it is, a dream that you once had, guess what? If you believe in Jesus, even these things has been taken away from you, God can give it back to you. Again, this is the parallel. I want to make sure you guys understand. Now, verse 26. And whoever lives by believing in me. So you live, your sole purpose for life is to believe that God can do the impossible for you. That Jesus can do the impossible for you. Guess what? It says you will never die. Which means that dream of yours will never be taken away as long you have it because of God. And now Jesus said, do you believe this, Martha? Do you believe this? And she responded in verse 27. Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. After, verse 28, after she had said this, she went back and called her sister aside. You see, she did have the beliefs, but here's the thing, she's lacking the conviction to actually move forward. You see, she said all the right thing. We said all the right prayers. But at the end, when Jesus gave her the answer she needs, she just, okay, let time for me now to go back and call my sister. She walked away from the answer she's been looking for. But now, let's see how the sister react to the same story. Again, if we go into verse 29. Now, this is the time when Martha goes to Mary and says, guess what? The teacher is looking for you, asking for you. Now, verse 29. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him, in terms of Jesus. Now, let's jump to verse 32. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him. Now, we start seeing some action. She fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Exactly the same sentence as Martha. They have the same beliefs that if Jesus was here, they would not have lose what they once hold dear to their heart. But guess what? When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in the spirit and troubled. You see, actions, not just words. Martha has words. She had a faith full of words. But we see Mary on the other hand, had the words, had the faith, but also taking some actions. You see, she believes that God, that Jesus can do more. And she fell on her feet. she wants to trigger a reaction, and she surely did. Because as we read in verse 34, it says, "Where have you laid him?" How come Jesus gave Martha all of the possibilities? She walked away from all of them. But Mary, on the other hand, never walked away from what was going on. "Come and see, Lord," they reply. And again, the story goes on. But let's go to verse 38. Jesus once more, deeply moved, and came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," Martha again, right? "But Lord," watch this. "But Lord," said Martha, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." See again, Martha has the faith but lacked the conviction to obtain her blessing. "It's too late." No, don't give us what we want. I know we need this. I know we need this victory over death. But don't give it to us. It's too late now, God. How many of you is Martha today? When you pray for something, God has given you the way out. But this is the time for you to decide to retreat and not obtain the blessing, the very prayer that you prayed for. Guess what? Today, this story is meant to help you see yourself in the presence of God, pleading for a new opportunity, pleading for blessings. But listen, as you pray, don't just say words and walk away when God is speaking back to you. When God is giving you the instructions on how to obtain your blessing, this is not the time, brothers and sisters, for you to say, "No, God, I think it's too late now. You should have been here instead." That way it never happened to begin with. No, when God is opening the doors for you, this is not the time for you to push against it and close it. But again, as we see in this story, this is exactly what Martha was doing. Then Jesus had to step in and remind her, "Did I not tell you, if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" Because even though she's asking all the right questions, Jesus is providing the right answers, she still cannot see that her prayers are being answered. Again, as I said, how many of us are like Martha today? But let's jump to verse 43. When he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Maybe this story you can't relate because you're literally thinking of you having a brother that passed on. But what about the job that you lost, that you are in need of? What about this business idea that you have, you don't know how to resurrect it? What about the goals that you set for yourselves earlier on and now unable to achieve? Guess what? Today Jesus is calling out your Lazarus. Come out. This is the time to embrace this change. This is the time to embrace that resurrection and experience the glory of God. As I'm thinking about this message, when the Spirit laid it upon my heart, I had to ask, my God, how is that applicable to us? Guess what? Today, in this month of Adar, the month of glory, the month of victory, the month to complete your temple, it is time to ask God for a resurrection. Resurrection of new opportunities, as I previously said. A resurrection of a dead dreams that you once had. An idea that you know would definitely work and was given to you by God. But you have let go of it because you have grown up. I said that right. You have grown up. My brothers, my sisters, believe today that Jesus can resurrect your dead dreams. I believe so. But it has to be done by faith. A faith that can trigger a reaction, just like Mary. Not just Martha with words, but like Mary with actions. A faith that can have a shift in the atmosphere for Jesus to deeply move and resurrect all of our dead dreams and goals that we had. Ask God today, brothers and sisters, to rekindle our youthful spirit. Because think about it. When we were young, we made big plans. Even when we are old, when we just got converted, we have big plans, big dreams. Guess what? God is calling you today because He's ready to resurrect those dreams for you, to rekindle that youthful spirit. When you thought everything was possible, and indeed with God it is. To when we thought we can reach the mountaintop and be holding our best self in Jesus. And yes, indeed, it is possible. To a point where we become like Christ. But guess what? Jesus reminded me, as again, I was reading and meditating through these words. Remember what I said. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And I had to ask God why. Why can't we experience this glory unless we transform like little children? And the answer was pretty obvious. It's because we have so many dead things in our lives that need resurrection. And this season is a time for this resurrection. Your Lazarus, Jesus said, is first of all your curiosity. Is first of all your curiosity. And the curiosity is important is because it opens doors mentally. When you're curious, you will try to explore different things. Bring forth new reality. It breeds creativity. And we know surely our God is a creative God. God is and full of imagination. Because whatever He can imagine, He's able to achieve. And how will you, brothers and sisters, be able to achieve without imagination? So therefore today, God is ready to resurrect your curiosity. Your excitement as well. Look at how excited God was and still is to bring forth mankind after creating the world, the heavens and the earth. Here look, it says, it seems a little incomplete. Let us create man in our image, in our likeness. Simple man, made with the same material as the cow that eat grass. But yet God was so excited about it. And God says today is the time for Him to resurrect your excitement. To resurrect your excitement, because we surely have lost our sense to enter the new adventure as we grow older. But God is ready to resurrect your excitement to a new youthful spirit. to be able to see new opportunities to explore new and fun, interesting challenges. You see, kids, even when things seems to be impossible to them, they never back down. They try again and again and again and again and again. You tell them, oh, you can't do that. They still try it. Because again, life is interesting and exciting for them. God is also, brothers and sisters, ready to resurrect another Lazarus in your life today, which is your faith. We once knew exactly what we wanted. With confidence and certainty, we go for it. But nowadays, we have settled for the things that the world has to offer. God also ready to resurrect your trust in Him. You see, when we were kids, when we were young, little kids, we trust our parents because we know they will not do anything to harm us. But as we grow older, again, this is when we start having distrust. This is when we become cynical and paranoid about everyone and anyone, including the Most High God. Guess what? God is ready to resurrect that trust again. Your sense of wonder. Because we seem to cease to be amazed at the glorious creation of God. God is ready to rekindle again, to resurrect your sense of wonder. But what we hold on to is all of the disappointment, all of the pain, all of the betrayals. Those are the things that we're holding on to. But yet God says, let these things go. The worries of this world, let them go, because He's ready to move you to a new place, allowing you to see the victory over those death, those Lazarus that I just mentioned to you. And lastly, God is ready to rekindle once again your persistency. As little children, we are quite persistent. Your parents says, don't do this. You tell them yes, you won't. And the moment they turn their back, you go back at it again. Because there is something about whatever you find fascinating. There is something about it that you want to reach the bottom of it. You want to know exactly what's going on. And we have lost our sense of persistency in this world. God is ready to resurrect once again your persistence. Brothers and sisters, maybe you were martyr in the beginning of this message, but realizing towards the end, it's not just words. Let your words follow by actions. Be like Mary today. Force Jesus to deeply move by taking actions as well. And do not reject the blessing of God after you ask for it. For after all, God again is ready to give you victory, allowing you to experience a new glory that you once believed in your youth, that youthful spirit. God is ready to rekindle that spirit for His glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.